Now, why Black Clover is easily the best new gen anime? Yeah, I'm joking, or at least that's a video for another time. But today's video is gonna be another one of those awesome tier lists of mine. Now, Black Clover, one of the best new gen anime, has lasted since early 2015 and it's had a pretty good run. I mean, besides being one of the best and most popular new gen anime, this is a series that's released over 30 volumes, and with that, some certified banger arcs. So as it enters its final arc slash phase, I'll be taking a look back on all the arcs of Black Clover and using my subjective opinion to rank them into a tier list. So what's good, YouTubers, based on anime? Hope you're having a nice day. Make sure to comment down below your favorite as well as your top Black Clover arcs, along with other tier lists like this you would like to see me do. And without further ado, into the video. So like I do in every one of my tier list videos, let me quickly introduce the tiers before we get started with the actual ranking. At top of the tier list, we have the peak fiction tier. I do use the term peak fiction very lightly. I'm not calling it the peak of all fiction or the peak of anime, but it's definitely the peak of Black Clover. Right under peak fiction, we have the certified banger, the A tier. You consider this the greats of Black Clover. Then we have pretty good, explanatory, the B tier. Then we have mid slash just good. I did add the just good part, even though I kind of feel weird for doing it, just because I didn't want people feeling some sort of way of me calling a Black Clover arc mid. But if it's mid, it's mid. And for the trash arcs, hope we don't have any too much trash arcs. We have the neighbor and solid Noel siblings, and if you know, you know what I'm saying. F tier, Z tier, whatever you want to call it, the trash arc. And yeah, let's get started with the first ranking. And like I said in my intro, try not to expect too much big brain analysis into each of its arc and its rankings and why it is what it is. I'm using most of this as my subjective and straight from the heart, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. So it's only right we start off the tier list with the first arc of the series, the Magic Knight's entrance arc. And for those of you who don't know, this arc also includes Asta, Magna's, and Noel's, I think, and their little adventure to Magna's hometown, and they're running with the Eye of the Midnight Sun's goons. And to be honest, I'd put it in the mid slash just good arc. It was a mid arc, but it's not that bad when compared to the other Black Clover arcs. I know it has a rep among shonen first arcs of being a trash arc, but I was reading it back a few days ago and I actually enjoyed it as if I was reading it for the first time. A lot of the stuff Asta was saying was actually pretty insightful compared to the rep Asta has in the first arc of just screaming, just non-stop screaming. And in the anime, trust me, he does scream, but some of the stuff he says is actually insightful, as he, as a commoner Magic Knight, has to pledge to defend everyone no matter of their value of magic. And I feel like it had a pretty good basis for Asta's motivation argument throughout the series. Also, it was a cool introduction of manga. I still like him to this day because of that introduction. A cool introduction of Noel, and yeah, it was a pretty mid arc. Of course, it has its flaws. It's a first arc, but it's pretty mid in my opinion. I also remember Asta and Magna's and Noel's fight with the Eye of the Midnight goons, especially with Heath with the ice magic, and it not being that bad, especially with Noel having to break out of her shell to protect the people while Asta and Magna went on the offense. But that's just a little quick side note and me rambling. Next arc we have is the dungeon exploration arc. I actually believe this to be the second arc of the series, I think. And this is an arc where I'm honestly going to be putting below the first arc, the Magic Knight's entrance arc, for numerous reasons. I remember when I was first reading it, it felt very rushed and very convenient in a lot of spots. I doubt it was more than 10 chapters or barely 10 chapters. The fight was also way too short with Mars. And you know, Mars is one of my favorite characters in the series, and this was his introduction, so it wasn't that bad of an introduction, but the fight just felt way too convenient. And I know it was explained away in the future arcs, especially when seeing Mars's now power, but I don't know, a lot of it just felt convenient, especially with Clark's belief in Asta, that also felt too convenient. But I did like some of the art in it. I've always loved Tabata's early Black Clover art. It was introduction from Mars. Introduction of Klaus and Mimosa. I guess that was the first time we saw them in action. It wasn't a bad arc, which is why I'm not putting in the trash arc, but I definitely have the Magic Knight's entrance arc over dungeon exploration. Also, a nice introduction of luck. Really like that. And I guess we also have to remember that these were Tabata's first two arcs, so obviously it's not going to be a banger pretty good right away. I guess he was still feeling around what he wanted to go with the series, and especially when it came to the pacing, but overall the first two arcs were mid. Next we have a pretty huge jump from the first two arcs. I think this was the 5th or 6th arc of the series, and it was the Royal Knights arc. And I'm being honest, this arc was a certified banger. I read it and rewatched it a few months ago, and I remember it just leaving its mark on me. I actually think it's an arc, at least for me, that put Black Clover on its map, especially with some of the iconic moments that still gets brought up today. I really like how Black Clover, I think this was Black Clover's only time it went with the tournament format, the usual anime tournament format, and yeah, it did not fail to disappoint with fights like Asta versus Longris, or especially with the dynamic between Finral and Longris. I really did like to see that. Also, I guess it was Finral's big moment, or I guess his first big moment was the Seabed Temple, but this was one of the first times I actually cared for the bro. And yeah, there was also fights like Yuno versus Real. Now that was one fight. I still think I have it in my top 10 till this day. It's low, but it's still there. And yeah, the arc was just banger, 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 banger. Just screams banger. And of course, with the iconic moment of Asta, Magna, and Lux stopping Lingers from killing Finral, that still gets brought up till today, especially. And also the clash between Yuno versus Real, that also does still get brought up to today. Yuno's first time using Spirit Drive, that was pretty cool. Overall, the arc, there's not much bad to say. I guess the anime, I didn't really like the animation, but that's on the anime. Yeah, certified banger of an arc, the Royal Knights. And I know this arc does include, at least to the end of it, the Royal Knights in their initial attack with the Eye of the Midnight Sun's base, but to be honest, I just pack all that into the Elf Reincarnation arc, pretty huge portion of the series. And yeah, when I look at the Royal Knights, I strictly look at the tournament portion, and like I just said, it did not fail to disappoint. Well, anyway, it was a certified banger of an arc. It was a pretty bad arc for Nibra and Note Solid, Noel siblings. I do remember that. And just to touch on that, I really did like how the Black Bulls really showed out and had the time to shine in front of those Royal stuck-ups. I mean, how much times do we hear Luck, Magna, Asta having skills that far surpass a junior Magic Knights level? And even though Manga didn't make it to the Royal Knights, he did a pretty good job, especially with that new spell he showed off against Asta, something I do remember. And yeah, certified banger of an arc, A tier for sure. The next arc we'd have for this would be the Eye of the Midnight Sun arc, an early arc which I actually just reread like yesterday, just to refresh on it for this video. And I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the, not pretty good, but I'm gonna go put it in the top of the mid/good tier, which means I rank it above the first Magic Knights entrance arc and the dungeon arc for numerous reasons. I really did like Gauch's introduction, well, not introduction, but more of an incorporation to the series, especially with his character development there. The fights were pretty cool, especially in the early parts with Sally, and a pretty interesting combo right there, Asta and Sally, and that little funny dynamic. Yeah. Also, Yami's first time in action, I do remember that in his fights with Licht, and also the introduction of the Eye of the Midnight Sun's top brass. Also the introduction, well, not introduction like I said, but incorporation of Charlotte, Jack, Nozel, and them jumping in near the end. I really did like Yami's introduction. That was really the main thing for me. His incorporation and teaching Asta how to use Ki, a power system, or I guess technique that he still uses today in the newer chapters of the series, and that was 5 years ago. The fight between Yami and Licht, that's when I forgot about until I reread it. That's a pretty underrated fight that I barely see anyone talking about, but it was nonetheless a pretty decent fight. I did like Asta's little incorporation to the captain's squabble with the top brass, especially when he broke Licht's back. Pause if that was needed a pause there, but he broke that dude's back with one sword strike. Just makes Asta looks 10 times more cooler. But yeah, it's not an arc where I would call it pretty good. It had its flaws, but I'm gonna put it top of mid, just good arc. The next arc would be the Spade Kingdom arc. I think it's a little too early to rank that. I'm gonna get on a lot of rants and a lot of greatness when it comes to that arc, so we're gonna hit up with another early arc, the Capital Invasion arc. I'm gonna have to put it in the Nibra and Solid, aka Trash arc. Now, this is an arc I did briefly reread. It just wasn't for me, and I guess it wasn't for a lot of people. When I watched the anime was just goddamn awful. I did like Fogolion's introduction. This was Fogolion's, I guess, his major arc or his header of the series. I guess also a little virally, I guess the little play toy rivalry with, what was his name again? Leopold? Yeah, Leopold and Vermilion. Kind of compared to Naruto and Kiba, and how Kiba says he wants to be the Hokage. Little rant there, but we'll go on. He didn't really do anything for the rest of the series, but particularly this arc, it wasn't for me. This was one of the first time I thought Asta was a little bit cringy, especially when he stood up to Noel's siblings. It's funny how Nibra and Solid's introduction arc is actually the arc that's trash. It says a lot about the characters. It wasn't for me overall. The arc just didn't move me at all. I guess I did like Fogolion's little tidbits here and there about motivation, about never giving up, and that impact on Noel going in further in the series. Yeah, Capital Invasion arc, it wasn't it for me. It was a trash arc, respectfully. Okay, now I feel bad for kind of like dogging on it, even if it's a trash arc. Still a Black Clover arc, and I respect Black Clover that much. So I did like um there's not much I liked about the arc. For Golan and Nozelle's introduction was cool, I guess. I like that little clash, but the arc was trash. I'm moving on, not feeling bad about it. Next arc we have is the Seabed Temple arc. Even though it's an early arc in the series, it's low-key a certified banger, and I'm debating putting it over the Royal Knights arc. The backlash for that's gonna be minor, but I might want to do it. Is it over the Royal Knights arc? Let me know in the comments, but either way, it's both of them arcs, especially that arc is a certified banger. Asta vs. Vedo, Asta and I guess Finrel, Vanessa, I almost forgot her name. Asta, Finrel, Vanessa, Noelle, and their little squabble with Vedo, Magnet's Luck, Union Attack. I reread this arc like 3 times. It was a certified banger. It was just long enough and just hype enough. Yami's Dimension Slash, the entire arc was just fire. We started out with the tournament style version of it, but it quickly turned into an all-in on Vedo and attack on him. Again, the fight was absolutely amazing. Had hype, had skill, had talent, had hard work. Asta surpassing his limits again to defeat Vedo. Overall, amazing good arc. I don't want to harp enough on the Magna Lux Union attack. That's still one of my top 10 favorite moments of the entire series. Those two characters, just them together is just hype. Just hype. Yeah, certified banger. Is it over the Royal Knights arc? I don't know. Noelle's Sea Dragon War was also pretty cool, how it took off Beto's arm. Of course, it didn't do much at the end of the day, but it's also a pretty good moment for Noelle's character. Pretty huge moment. Asta coming in to save Noelle after Beto, went crazy was also pretty just a shock, because I didn't remember that until I read it. Is it overrun? I don't know. I said it was. I'm going to use my opinion. In my opinion, I do have the Seabed Temple arc over the Royal Knights. Without, was it objectively, the Royal Knights probably is over Seabed Temple, but I have Seabed Temple over it. I mean, just too many great moments, just such a great arc in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, so technically we do have to rank the Spade Kingdom next, but I already know I pushed it back once, but I'm gonna push it back again, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so I'm gonna rank the Spade Kingdom, Heart Kingdom, Elf Reincarnation arc, the 3 most recent Black Clover arcs. I'm gonna kind of rank them in a bundle. And we're gonna go ahead and go with the Witch's Forest arc, the last pre-time skip arc for Black Clover. Or at least the ones we haven't ranked. I'm kind of in a dilemma here because we don't have an arc yet in the pretty good tier for this video. But is it a certified banger, or would I put that as certified banger? I don't know, because even if I did put in the certified banger tier, it would be at the bottom of the tier. I do have Seabed Temple and the Royal Knights arc over the Witch's Forest arc, but is it even in that tier? Because it would be at pretty good if it wasn't in that tier. Obviously above mid / just good. That's obviously. To talk about the arc, Mars's, I like one of my favorite Black Clover characters. This is another good arc for him. I think it was like one of 2 arcs he showed up in the series. Asta's first transformation in the series, Black Asta vs. Lydra, another pretty cool and I would say iconic Black Clover fight. Vanessa's incorporation and also backstory into the series with her and the Witch's Queen. The Witch's Queen is also pretty good. I did like that. It was a little bit of world building in this arc. Well, there's a lot of world building in a lot of the arcs, but this arc is specifically had a lot of world building with this Witch's Forest. Is it in the same tier as the Seabed Temple and the Royal Knights arc though? I feel like I'm underrating if I call it pretty good, because the Asta and Mars versus what's her name, Fauna. I did like that fight. Kind of liked it more than the Asta vs. Lydra's fight, to be honest. The end of the arc was pretty good with Vanessa overcoming the Witch's Queen. Is it a certified banger? Okay, let me think about this. If I had to reread the Seabed Temple arc, the Royal Knights arc, or the Witch's Forest arc, if I liked those little start bench cut, if I had to cut one of those from reading it, I would rather read the Seabed Temple and the Royal Knights arc over the Witch's Forest arc, to be honest. So I guess that decides it. It was a pretty good arc. I wouldn't put it certified banger. I'll put it pretty good. I think it's only going to be the only arc and pretty good for this video, considering the last 2 arcs we have, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, pretty good arc. I did like the characters that we saw, Fanzo and his crew, his Diamond Kingdom crew. Of course, I didn't really read the light novel on their backstories, but I did get the gist of it from, picking up on it. Yeah, it was a pretty good arc. Okay, so you already know what time it is. You already know what time it is. We have the Elf Reincarnation arc, Spade Kingdom arc, and the Heart Kingdom arc. All three of the recent arcs that we have to rank. And I'm gonna go with Spade King. I've been holding that off. Obviously, peak fiction. I don't think that was a debate. Obviously, over any of the arcs I've ranked thus far, Seedbed Temple, Royal Knights arc, Witch's Forest arc, Midnight Sun, Magic Knight Entrance Dungeon, Capital Invasion, the Spade Kingdom arc was easily top 2 Black Clover arc of all time. I'm gonna get into if it was number 1 and number 2, but easily top 2. I mean, the whole premise of the arc of them having to go save Yami and William was just amazing. From Yuno coming in, from Asta coming in, from Noah coming in, those big 3, they all had their big moments. Other characters like Magna had their big moment. Who else? Finro had his big moment. Oh no, Longris had his big moment with Yuno. A lot of the side characters, Zoro with that little Lucifero punch, a lot of the other little minor characters had their moment come in. Noelle versus Magicula, Asta versus Lucifero, of course, I'm going to get to that. Yuno versus Xenon. The arc was just exploding with hype in non-stop action, also giving some characters that don't really get some time to shine, their time to shine as well. Yeah, it was a great arc. Not the second arc coming out of the first time skip. I did like the Dark Triad as villains. I think they might have went down a little bit too easily, if I'm being honest, but I do like them as villains. I don't know if they're actually, I'm not going to talk about if they're really dead or not, but you know, they did go down a little bit too easily. Yuno versus Xenon, with the star magic. I feel like Yuno versus Xenon might have been my favorite fight of the arc. I know the Lucifero fight was a banger, but the Yuno versus Xenon, that was really, I like to see the characterization and the backstory of Xenon. I don't want to rant too much on each of the individual aspect of the Spade Kingdom arc. A great arc, Fine. Asta versus Lucifero, or the captains versus Lucifero. Because when the captains pulled up, I'm not gonna lie, I knew it was about to be peak fiction, even though they got absolutely slaughtered and clapped. Sorry if that was a spoiler, but they got their stuff handed to them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, peak fiction. I don't know where else to put it. One thing, I'm talking too much good about the arc. Let me say something that I felt uneasy about. Mimosa. Now, I get that Mimosa, she's the healer of the series. You need some healing, you get Mimosa. I guess that's the role she plays into the series, but my gosh, she heals everyone. Like, every time someone got clapped, she would be there healing them from death. And one thing that I feel like the fandom and me had like a little problem with the arc was the whole dying thing. Now, I don't always go into an arc like the Spade Kingdom expecting someone to die and needing someone to die, but a few deaths here and there kind of spices up the series. I mean, of course, it's not like Fairy Tail where literally no one dies. I do feel like the Black Clover hasn't reached that point, but I'm not gonna lie, people like characters like Gaja and William Vengeance escaping death, that had me feeling some type of way, to be honest. But yeah, it was a banger arc, of course. Why am I peak fiction arc, full of peak fiction? Spade Kingdom is like that. But was it the number 1 arc or the number 2 arc? We're about to find out. Also, let me quickly throw some bones my boy Nox way. After this arc has concluded, easily top 3, 3 or 4 favorite characters of the series of all time. His backstory, his introduction, it was all just so perfect for that character. I did like the whole thing, how he felt guilt from his brother's passing and how Yami was in tune with that. Just a great arc. He just showed up in the perfect moments, the right moments. We didn't get too much of him, but we also didn't get too little of him. He didn't take up the main screen time, but especially his fight with the two twin devils, after that fight, he was easily top 5 favorite characters of the series for me. Yeah. Peak fiction. Oh, of course, Nozel versus Magicula, Jack versus Dante. Great fights for them. And I actually did a whole Magic Captain ranking video if you want to go check that out. This is my channel, but great fights and great just moments for them. Next would be the Elf Reincarnation arc, but to be honest, it kind of feels weird ranking the number 1 and number 2 arcs of the series and leaving out the Heart Kingdom for the end. So I'm going to quickly, rank the Heart Kingdom. Certified banger peak fiction. The fact that I'm even debating that is kind of crazy, because I know a lot of people would consider the Heart Kingdom as, with the Spade Kingdom, kind of consider them as a 2 package, and it's not peak fiction for me, to be honest. Just looking at that arc specifically away from the Spade Kingdom, it's somewhere in certified banger. You know what? Out of respect for the arc, I'm gonna put it above the Seabed Temple, above Royal Knights, at the top of Certified Banger. I did like Asta and Yami versus Dante. That was an amazing fight, and I feel like the hype, especially when the anime episodes were coming out around that time, knowing the anime was going to end soon, the hype for those episodes was unmatched. Noelle versus Majekla, another pretty good fight. Versus Xenon, the first time, I'm going to be honest, that didn't hit at all. Especially because I watched it before I read it and the animation wasn't hitting, but yeah, that whole little, what was it, a 5-chapter battle, the Yuno versus Xeno actual counter was what, 4 panels? Yeah, Yuno's scream for the Golden Dawn and is actually getting stabbed, that was a pretty cool moment. New York was a certified banger. I reread it multiple times, especially for the fights. Yeah, I mean, not much to say. It was kind of like a prelude to Spade Kingdom. That was the main role of it. Luck and his crew in the Heart Kingdom did their thing, but yeah. Now time for the Elf Reincarnation arc. Obviously, it's in peak fiction. Is that even debate? Top 1 or /2 arc of the series had the moments that were iconic. Banger, Oster and Universe Lick. Like I said, I was going to include the later part of the Royal Knights arc into the Elf Reincarnation arc, their initial attack on their base. Also, versus Universe Lick. I don't care what anyone says. That's my number 1 fight of the series right there. Barring the Lucifer fight, barring the Austin Yami vs Dante. Austin Universe Lick was my number 1 fight of the series. This was an arc that was very similar to the Spade Kingdom. A lot of the minor supporting characters did have their time to shine. I did like Noelle's little moments. First, not Fauna, or it was Fauna? I think so. Noelle vs Fauna. Don't quote me on that. I believe it was Noelle vs Fauna. Her finally getting Nozelle and her siblings semi recognition. That was pretty cool. Merleona was a big factor in the hype for that for me, or at least early on with her initial attack. Her going 4v1, Zora showing up there. Yeah, it was a banger arc, of course, peak fiction, along with the Spade Kingdom. But who do I have on top? Elf Reincarnation arc or the Spade Kingdom? Oh, it's a hard one. It really is a hard one, to be honest. They were both peak fiction. I did like the writing in the Elf Reincarnation arc better than the Spade Kingdom, to be honest. Because at one point, the Spade Kingdom was really just Asta saving everyone, and then Mimosa showing up and healing everybody from death. The Elf Reincarnation arc, come on. Asta and the elves teaming up against Zogred was pretty cool at the end, especially with Patri and the Wizard King, or the first Wizard King coming in. I don't know. The Elf Reincarnation arc might be like the peak of Black Clover, to be honest. I don't know. Subjectively, objectively, I forgot which one is which. In my opinion, I think I might have the Elf Reincarnation arc over the Spade Kingdom, to be honest. Or do I? I don't know. It's just so hard to decide because the Spade Kingdom was just exploding with hype and action, and so was the Elf Reincarnation arc. But to be honest, the Spade Kingdom did have more hype than the Elf Reincarnation arc. I will say that. But I don't know. Okay, I'll do it like I did with the other little Seabed Temple, Royal Knights, and Witches Forest. If I had to pick one to reread over and over again, which would it be? I'm going to go with the Spade Kingdom, to be honest. I will say I'm going to go with the Spade Kingdom. Because I do feel like the Spade Kingdom did a way better job than incorporating the minor characters. The Elf Reincarnation did do that too, don't get me wrong. But the Spade Kingdom, just non-stop hype, action, just non-stop peak. Again, I did have a problem with the whole Asta going on, saving everybody, Mimosa healing everybody, but my gosh, that arc had me feeling some things with some of the fights, for real. The Elf Reincarnation arc, of course, a banger, but the Spade Kingdom, everyone's at their best. The characters, the writers, the story, it was at its best. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm going to go with the Spade Kingdom arc. Top arc of the series, and this is my complete list. So, peak fiction, Spade Kingdom, Elf Reincarnation arc, obviously. Certified banger, Heart Kingdom, Seabed Temple, Royal Knights. Pretty good, Witches Forest arc. Midnight Sun, Magic Knight's Entrance, Dungeon arc, and Nebra and Solid, or the Trash arc, the Capital Invasion. That's my complete tier list. Now, let me know how you rate it down in the comments. I think I did a pretty good job. I will say Elf Reincarnation arc, Spade Kingdom. That can be pretty switchable depending on your preference. Certified banger. I think everything looks pretty solid, Let me know how you rate it. And this is the end of the video. Make sure to follow the Twitter, subscribe to the channels, turn on post notifications. You already know what to do. Leave a comment down for your favorite arc or your top arc of the series. And yeah, have a nice day.